The same way his foot's facing, right next to it. Just like this, watch, my foot. You're gonna put it right there. Turn your body, turn your body, turn your body. Turn, turn, turn. There you go. Put that really close. Yeah, that's it. So you see how it's facing over this? Now you would take this foot and you put it over here, just like we practiced, right? I'm gonna have you just scoot that way a little bit, so when you fall, you have space. Go ahead and move both your legs. Both of you guys scoot, 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 scoot. There we go. Okay, now grab around the waist. Yes.
Hey, assalamu alaikum everybody. Welcome to a new video for this week. So I shared this little video of my 9-year-old Zachariah. He actually just enrolled, or we enrolled him in MMA, martial arts, Kempo, and grappling class that he started last week, and he's really enjoying it. But the reason why I shared that with you is because, you know, I was thinking that it's interesting how we discipline our children to a degree that's like at a whole other level than we discipline ourselves. And I've seen this time and time again, and I'm guilty of that as well. You know, we put together a really strict schedule for our children. We make sure that they're, you know, as part of their curriculum, that they have extracurricular activities, that they're well balanced. They're growing up with not just education in all their courses that they do at school, math and social studies and English and Islamic studies or religious studies or whatever. But then we supplement that with exercise, you know, by putting them in soccer on the weekends and martial arts class or whatever, you know, music classes, etc. And we just run around and do that, right? And we maintain this really strict schedule for them religiously, right? There's no way we're going to miss a class for a kid because, you know, it's so critical. And what's interesting is that we don't apply that to ourselves. You know, sometimes we'll even we'll even hold our spouses, you know, to a certain commitment that we've made to each other, right? But it's just so easy for yourself to flake off and say, yeah, you know, I wanted to go to the gym and, you know, something came up, I'm too tired, I'm too lazy, whatever, right? And it's interesting when you think about that, because if we applied the same discipline that we do with our kids to ourselves, just imagine the results that we would be getting, right? I think it would be tremendous, and I think that's the level of discipline that we all want to really strive for to be successful, and that's what separates the entrepreneurs versus the big thinkers and the wannabes and the ones that just kind of spend their time procrastinating and just kind of thinking. So I thought it was an interesting thought, drawing a parallel between disciplining our kids versus discipline that sometimes we lack for ourselves. I ate bad on the weekend. You know, I got off my diet and I felt bad about that. But you know what? This morning, you know, Monday morning came along and I hit the gym, you know, like I just kind of got over it. And I said, okay, well, you know, it's a new day and I've been hitting the gym pretty regularly, so that's perfectly fine. You know, you fall down and then you get up and you keep going. And I think some of the psychologists, you know, have said that the hardest thing is to be lenient to ourselves, is to forgive ourselves, is to love ourselves and hold ourselves to a higher level than we typically do. And you know, I think that's human nature, that we do get down on ourselves we kind of put ourselves last on the list, right? Unfortunately, mom is always last on the list because the kids come first, you know, the husband comes first. And I think that the same is true for dads as well, right? The kids come first, and in dad's opinion, hey, you know, mom comes first and do this, and then I'll get to exercise or I'll get to my business whenever I have time, right? And that never comes. So just something to think about and start getting serious about, you know, for 2016. February's already here, and the goals that we made for business, if we're not hitting them, if we're not taking that first step, then before we know it, it's going to be June or July. So I'm really excited. The course that we're putting together is ramping up. Ali Arshad has kind of joined my team, and he's in the group, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's kind of taking on the tech management role for the Muslim Wealth Club, and you guys are going to see some really, really exciting value that we're bringing to the course. Couple of things I wanted to share with you. I want to talk today about how to pick your first product, and I've covered this previously, but this is, I think, the single most critical gap. It's the hardest struggle that most private label sellers have, is selecting that first product. And once you've done it a few times, it really becomes easy. And I don't use the word easy lightly. It really does become easy, but it's like anything else. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. But the first one, that's the hardest. For me, it took me 4 months just to kind of get serious about my first private label product. And then, of course, after I did, I was like, oh, what was that big scare about? Like, why was I so afraid of making, the wrong decision? And I should have just, started way earlier. But let me give you a couple of sources. And, in the course that we're going to do, we're going to talk a lot about this. And we're going to do some one-on-one. We're really going to help you get strategic and help pick out your first private label product, so that you don't spend 4 months like I did trying to get to that point to say, okay, here's the perfect product. So my source for selecting products, I've got about probably half a dozen sources, and they all work really well. So let's go through them. Number one, Amazon, obviously, and there's a lot of tutorials online on how to find a product. But again, in the course, we'll go through the details. But just browsing Amazon, running down branches and sub-branches within any category that you want to peruse, whether it's children's toys or housewares or whatever, you got to get into the needles in the haystack and just start running down products that are ranked anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000, and use tools like Jungle Scout and other tools, and go see what kind of competition there is. Don't go for the obvious stuff. I see a lot of sellers selling the same junk over and over again. Cell phone accessories, cell phone cases, silicone oven mitts, and all this crazy stuff. Now, if you happen to be a specialist in that because that you've got a business already doing that, that's a different story. Maybe you've got a special source, but for the most part, you want to stay away from the typical stuff. But things that the weirder they are, the better, as long as they have good sales. Things that you don't really think about until you need it, and then you go to Amazon. And that's going to just take sweat equity. You got to put aside a few hours every week, at least, and just study the Amazon catalog and go down the list page after page after page, and look at the rank, look at the competition, look at the sales. And again, you can do all that using tools like Jungle Scout. So that's one. Number two, I get a lot of magazines. I've signed up for a lot of magazines. I went to the CES show. I signed up for a bunch over there, so I get a bunch of magazines from manufacturers and suppliers. There's a lot of mail order magazines that are available. All you have to do is Google and you'll find them. There is, for example, I never remember the name of this manufacturer, but they're very famous. They're German, Hammacher, Schmecker, something like that. They're very famous. Hammacher, Schmecker. I don't remember the name, but I get their magazine. They have a lot of really cool little gadgets in their magazine. There's a bunch of those. National Geographic, the store, National Geographic Store magazine. I get that. And just flipping through that as I get that, once a month or whatever, I'll go through it, and there's some things in there that are really cool and have made for very good candidates for private labeling. So magazines, just subscribe to them online. They're free, so you're not spending any money there. So Amazon first, magazine second. The third source that I've had some luck with as well is just on the weekend, just go shopping and go to like the Home Depot, your big hardware store, go to H-E-B or Kroger or, whatever your big grocery chain is over there, and walk through the aisles. I remember I did that one time, and I walked out of there with probably about 12 products that, I didn't even know existed. They were like really weird things that are used in the kitchen, you know, stuff to keep bananas fresh. I have no idea. And what I did was I went in there and I just took pictures of things that I thought, oh, that's kind of odd, or kind of, you know, I don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen, so for me it was very odd. My wife probably looked at that and said, oh, we already have that. But just walk down some of the aisles and start taking pictures of stuff that you think could be interesting and maybe private label. Then you want to come home and do your research and go see, you know, is this a unique item? Is there too much competition on it? Or maybe you found something that now can be a private label item. So Amazon, catalogs, stores, and I'm going to give you a fourth one. So a fourth one, and this is, I got a call coming in, let me reject this, perfect timing. A fourth source that is out there, and it's not gray, you know, it's not gray hat or anything like that. People, for some reason, people choose to get their products reviewed by review services that are online. And there's a bunch out there. Thomason is one, there's a bunch. And I have never used public review sites because you know, why would you take a risk and put your product out there that somebody might steal? And I hate to be negative like that, but I've seen it happen again and again. So why would you do that? I use a private review group. Deb is who I use, and I've talked about her in the group. She takes care of all my reviews, all privately. Nobody knows what what private label products I have. So if there are public review groups, that's a good place to browse. And so I'm not encouraging that you poach or steal other people's products, but people are launching dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of products. And you may get inspired by looking at some of their products and saying, hey, I can take that one product and I can bundle it, I can make it better, or I could take that product and I can get some variation of it and launch that instead. So I think that's a great source as well. That's the fourth source that I've just talked about. And again, I'm not trying to encourage that you steal somebody's product, but if it's sitting right there and they chose to make it public, it could be a source that you may take and bundle or do some variation of it and launch your own unique product. There's probably about a half dozen more that I can share with you, but I'm going to save them for the course that we're launching. So again, let's recap. Sources to get inspiration for private label products. Number one, Amazon. Spend your time. If you're going to be selling in Amazon, you need to live in that world. Number two, magazines. So start subscribing to online, digital, print magazines from all these free places that they will be thrilled to start sending you as many magazines as you want. Number three, go to stores and look around you, Home Depot and all those places. You know, every store, large store, they're filled with hundreds of thousands of products, and you'd be surprised what they produce and sell out there. And then number four, look at review sites, and take that with a grain of salt, but that is a potential good source. Okay, so I've given you 4. All right, I'm going to save the rest for the private label course. A few days ago, I posted a picture of one of my orders that just came in, and people were asking. I said this is $30,000 worth of products. So people were asking, hey, is that profit or not? So just to clarify, that's $30,000 worth of sales that merchandise is going to bring me, not net. Okay, but I will get a net on that, and net is going to be anywhere between 20 to 30%, which I'm more than happy with. So my goal is to take that and have that every month or every quarter, and just to keep rocking Amazon. There's so much opportunity, guys. Get moving. All right. You've done your planning and all that. Get moving. If you're waiting for the course, again, just be a little patient. We're putting together some amazing value in that course. So just give me a few more weeks, and we'll be talking all about it in our Facebook group and other channels. All right, guys. Happy selling.